Crashed and burned. That is how you can describe the second season of With Love, Meghan, as it has failed since its launch to reach the top 10 in the United States. I haven't heard about it reaching the top 10 anywhere else either. There is no buzz about this show, no discussion about this show, despite what happened last time, and despite Meghan going, oh, we have our demographic loves it. Clearly, that demographic is as imaginary as a 15-year-old girl who wants Meghan's jar of spread. And this is definitely worth going over because I think it reveals so much about the actual mechanics of the Netflix deal. Because despite what, again, Harry and Meghan and even Netflix are attempting to spin, they did not re-sign the show because it was good. They're not continuing with the holiday special because it was good. Netflix knew this was going to happen, which is why I believe they did not put one single cent behind marketing this project. And Meghan, much to her discredit, did not attempt to pick up the slack. And so we have a dead show. So we are going to get into all of this today, including the failure, of course, of Meghan Markle's As Ever products to sell. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. And because we are in a bit of a time crunch today, because in the United States, it shall soon be Labor Day, we will be skipping our Crown Report segment here just so we can try to get as much done as possible and just get right into this discussion. Because I will be, maybe it's a bit of my personal hubris to say, guys, but I think I was 100% right in my assessment of what happened with As Ever behind the scenes. The metrics that we didn't get, I think my analysis is actually going to end up being spot on here. And that's because of how this second season has cratered. Oh my goodness. So just to look at Netflix, I don't know if I can actually show this and share my screen or not, but we do have Netflix here. I can't play anything for you guys, but you can see the top 10 shows in the US here. We have Katrina, Come Hell or High Water. We have My Life with the Walter Boys. Hey. And then we have Hostage, Wednesday, Hunting Wives, which doesn't even have like a new season or recently added. So this has been here a while. It's still going strong. We have obviously Kill Tony, Fit for TV, America's Team, Dallas Cowboys, Extant, which is a Halle Berry show, which only lasted 2 seasons. And I looked this up. It's an old show, guys, from it's like 10 years old. This is not a new property by any stretch of the imagination. And this looks like a South Korean,
Tell me exactly.
I would guess.
Why can you not believe that I'm legitimately the king?
It is at number 10. So clearly, Meghan Markle's show didn't make it. And last time it made it up into, I want to say it even got into like 4th or 5th place at one point. And this was later in the week. So guys, by this point, if there was any good word of mouth on Meghan's show at all, it would have steadily climbed in the rankings. This is sort of what happens. You even see this with, let's go down here and re-show this again and go down to weeks now. They will encourage others to watch it. So there was actually a metric, and it's funnily enough, I actually used it in a video because I caught it from Netflix. So let me see if I can find it again here real quick. Yes. So K-pop Demon Hunter made Netflix history. It's the first Netflix film to ever reach new viewing peak in its 5th week of release. And again, I think this is so important to describe how we consume material, which is that if it's good, people will go back again and again and again and again and again. They will go back endlessly. And especially something that's like highly consumable as this, they will keep going back to that because it's like kids love it, adults love it. Like this show or movie is humongous. And yet, Meghan Markle, with that $100 million deals, I guess my understanding, actually, I was listening to something, is that Netflix paid $20 million for this movie after Sony spent $100 million making it. So Netflix made bank on a movie they didn't technically make, that they got at a bargain, and they paid $100 million for this.
Milk bread.
And she could not even get into the top 10, guys. That is how bad this show is. And even the Hollywood, you could say, Bibles of terms of journalism, so the big kind of publications, except for the only one that covered Meghan's series this time was The Hollywood Reporter, said, with love, Meghan sticks to original recipe in season 2, unfortunately. So This thing is just epically tanked. There is no other way to put it. I will be so curious to see the numbers when this comes out. And so it seems like it's time to look at Meghan's recent interview with Bloomberg. We did whole long videos about it. I just want to revisit her discussing this show and how we didn't listen to the critics, really. Our fans loved it. But did they? Did anybody really love it? Or should she have listened to the critics? Let's listen to a little bit of this because, again, I really like going over what we actually have here. And then I'll explain to you all how I think, kind of, if you've been watching me for a while, I was 100% right in my assessment of what happened with this show. Like what truly happened, not what Meghan said happened, what really happened. So, again, let's listen. I do have to put my little earphone in here. So, here is the interview. And as we see here, 25,000 downvotes to 4.8 thousand upvotes. Not very good. It was actually, honestly, a very horrible interview. I've said that multiple times, but it's still true.
To the screen in March with a show With Love, Meghan, where she, alongside friends and celebrity guests, shares her tips for cooking, gardening, and hosting. It was greenlit for a just-released season 2.
So it was greenlit for season 2. But what the journalist isn't saying is that they filmed both seasons back to back. And so, honestly, my suggestion would have been to completely scrap what they had for season 2 and redo it all because the first season was so bad. But they didn't do that because Meghan was super confident.
What's your vibe on launch day? Are you zen or are you like gritting your teeth?
Oh, no. Very zen because it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. So I think I sort of approach that with anything that I pour my heart into and create is you've done everything you can and then you have to let it go.
Now, there is some truth here. Like when I do my videos, I just get them done and out. Like that's how I have to roll because obviously there's so much going on. I don't have time to like sit down and like really carefully go over every single bit. You'll notice I should do that. I don't do that. I should do that. Anyways, but she is saying, oh, it's good. You just have to let it go and just, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. No, it needs to track. And it didn't. It failed pretty hard here. But let's keep going.
How much preparation would go into a With Love shoot? Like, are you memorizing recipes? Are you sharpening your knife skills? Are there hours of taste tests?
It's a great question. A lot of prep and a huge crew, which I think people often forget. That was a crew of 80 people.
It's funny she keeps using this talking point, a crew of 80 people, as if that's like some sort of win. I still don't quite understand how you get 80 people from that show because I'm looking at it from an outsider's perspective. And yes, I don't know that much about production, but obviously I have my lights here. I have my camera there. I pay for a nice lens and camera. I pay for a nice mic here. I have my computer in front of me. So I just can't help but think, I'm like, what are these people doing? I don't know what they're doing because I just don't think, and again, this is just my personal opinion, that she needed a crew of 80. It was excessive, in my personal opinion. It might have been somewhat union required, but I don't think she needed 80 people to do this show.
So most of it in the pre-production was inspired by recipes that I love to make, who I was entertaining.
So you love making sea urchin? I don't think you do.
And then test it all out. Yeah, it's a lot.
The show hit the top 10
Yeah,
globally. And yet there were mixed reviews.
And it'll be funny to see if somebody asks her next time. So it hit the global top 10 last time. And this time, not only did it fail, you're in 1500th place. Be interested to see what her reaction is to that.
I watched every episode of the Meghan Markle Netflix show, so you don't have to.
So many people recreate her recipe. So like, where's the hate coming from?
How did that land for you?
So, I mean, that's a decent question because it didn't land well. She got a lot of criticism for this show, and rightly so.
I think I knew who I was trying to meet. And so if you know your audience, you know your demographic, well, they love the show. And my partners love the show. And that's why we have a season 2 and why we have more fun coming. So
did they, though? Did they really? Or is this like her 15-year-old who desperately wants Meghan's bottle of jam? Is this all made up in her head? Because she obviously doesn't know her demographic. The show didn't do well. And the audience she was trying to reach was always very, very small.
So I think oftentimes the negative voices, are they saying negative things and then secretly going home and making single skillet spaghetti? Possibly. And that's all right. They're trying to pay their bills.
But Meghan, your show wasn't good. So when they're criticizing you, they're not going home and making single skillet spaghetti, except for if it's to try it out and see if it works and actually like report on it or mock you. That's what they're trying to do. But what actually happened in this as ever disaster of Meghan's with Love? Meghan, because I have been saying something for a while, and you'll have to excuse me. I'm a one-woman show, so I don't have time to go through and watch every single video to pull out the various bits where I've discussed this, but I know I have. And so you'll have to just take my word for it or go through the Royal News Network back catalog for 2025, and I'm sure you'll come across this. But here is what I have always suggested happened. Why Meghan got on the top 10 list in the first place. It had nothing to do with the show being successful in terms of it being good, in terms of it being something that was generating buzz in a positive way. I've always said that what I think happened, the vast majority of the people who quote unquote watch the show, because what Netflix gives us is watch time and then you divide it by the number of hours of the show. That's how you get the actual audience. So it's not telling you how many people started and stopped the show or started and only watched part of an episode and then never watched anything else. But what I've always suggested happen is that most people watched the first 2 episodes or just simply episode 2 to watch the Mindy Kaling meltdown. That is what people watched With Love Meghan for. They watched it for that Mindy Kaling, I'm not Meghan Markle anymore, I'm Meghan Sussex. That's why people watched. It wasn't because it was good. It wasn't because it was generating positive buzz. It wasn't. It was to watch the meltdown. And so a lot of people did. A lot of people did. And because of that, I'm sure, and I've suggested this before, the actual number of people who watched the show is probably higher than that 5.3 million. But what Netflix, again, doesn't tell us, and they know, they 100% know this, because remember there was that one report at some point where somebody goes that this one person was watching the same movie like every day for like a year or something like that, or a couple months. They were watching this same like rom-com type thing. And Netflix pointed out. So Netflix knows like the intimate details of how you're watching and consuming their material. They just keep it to themselves. So there's actually even been a big battle in Hollywood because even people who make stuff for Netflix don't really know how to perform truly. They don't really know because Netflix can keep all those metrics to themselves that they want to. And their acknowledgement that what we watch list is totally Netflix volunteering that information. They're not required to do so. They're volunteering it. So that's a pretty big deal. So what I think happened, again, guys, is that the vast majority of the watch was relegated to episodes 1 and 2. Wendy was on episode 2, so maybe people watched episode 1 and 2 or just 2, and they didn't watch anything else of it. And Netflix knew that. They were looking at these numbers going, well, at least people somewhat watched, but they didn't finish, because the true metric of success is somebody start the show and finish the show. Because even on YouTube, like one of the big metrics I have is watch time. And so if my average watch time is fairly high, that video tends to do better in terms of the actual revenue generated. So for example, my Jordanian royal wedding video, like the average watch time was less than a minute. And then I had the inauguration fashion video, and its watch time was like maybe 10 minutes or something. It's been a while since I've looked, but it was much longer. And so if you actually look at those videos, the Jordanian royal wedding video got 3 million views. The inauguration fashion almost got 1 million views, and they actually generated about the same amount of money. And so that gives you an idea of how critically important watch time is. Netflix doesn't tell us that, because if they told us the actual watch time of things in terms of how many people actually, let's say, finish. So they're telling us watch time. So I apologize, but like how many people actually finished and watched everything, I think we would find that a lot of stuff doesn't get fully watched. Like I started watching the Katrina documentary. I watched the first 2 episodes, episode 3 just didn't seem to do much for me. So I'm like, I'm kind of done. And yeah, it wasn't totally my cup of tea in some ways, because I wanted to focus a bit more on you could say sort of the disaster aspect, which we got a fair amount of. But anyways, that's my personal thing. But Netflix knows that. Netflix knows that I started and watched all of episodes 1 and 2 and couldn't make it through 3. Netflix knows how many people actually finished Meghan's show, and they know it wasn't a good number. And how we know it is that Netflix did 0 promotion for this. 0. Nothing. Netflix did nothing for this show. Last time, I saw With Love Meghan promos on Pinterest. Last time, I'm pretty positive Meghan got a Times Square billboard for her show. This time, we got nothing. You put money behind a show you're confident in. Netflix is not confident in her show. They're not confident in her. Otherwise, they would pony up the money to really promote it. Meghan didn't even do any of the talk show circuit. Last time she did one, which was Drew Barrymore, which is a bit of a disaster because Drew Barrymore, oh no, showed Meghan a picture of her mother-in-law, and Meghan like recoiled in horror at seeing a picture and hearing Drew talk about how much she loved Princess Diana. Like literally, she recoiled in horror. So, I mean, it was awkward horror, but still, Netflix knew this. And they acted accordingly. So my suggestions always about how people only watched the first 2 episodes, they wanted to see the Mindy Kaling thing. I think given how the reaction has been for this time, it's been pretty vindicated that is what happened behind the scenes. Because that was the only thing generating, let's say, headlines. And Meghan's show dropped in a very different time. She was kind of the only thing for about a week, which was both good and bad because she generated a lot of press in that time, but it was not really good press. And what we've seen, I feel like, and again, I want to do a whole video on sort of the scarcity tactic situation for As Ever products and why that's suddenly fallen off a cliff and everything seeming to fall off a cliff at one point is because the whole buzz was artificial to begin with. It was Meghan Stans promoting it. And Meghan Stans obsessing over it, not it actually being successful, or the morbidly curious wanting to see a full-grown woman having a tantrum over her name and chastising a very successful woman in Hollywood for calling her Meghan Markle. That's why people watched. It wasn't because it was good. And when it comes to this holiday special, yeah, Netflix greenlit it, but it probably doesn't cost that much money. I mean, at most $5 million to make something like that. They don't really care. They are not on the Meghan bandwagon. Despite what Meghan Markle said, they are not on the bandwagon. If you look at, again, the season 2 promotional tour of Wednesday, it's been very strong. Collaborations with different places, all these sorts of things. We'll see more of that with Stranger Things coming out, One Piece coming out. Like those shows that could potentially be, especially Stranger Things, very much tentpole shows for Netflix. They'll pull at all the stops to promote, they'll license everything. They did not do that with Meghan. And that's because they had no belief in its success. They had seen the dailies, they had seen all the videos, they had seen the show and knew it was crap. I knew nobody would watch this, but they put it up anyways. Because the only reason Netflix is keeping Meghan Markle around is for the royal drama, and that is it. That is it. They're willing to throw a couple $1 million at her here and there to get some tripe, but they are not invested in her. They are not. They are there for the drama she generates, not because she is talented. It's such an important distinction to make because there is no way that Netflix would be on, like without the title, Meghan would have been gone from Netflix by now. Netflix would have totally shown her the door without that title in tow. But because she has a title, she gets to, let's say, go on and have a modicum of success there. But I think we'll see the numbers for season 2, and they'll be pretty catastrophically bad because the show wasn't good. It just simply wasn't good. She's not a compelling person. It was weird. Like, it's crafting for the obscenely rich who have a bunch of time on their hands. Like, it wasn't a show where the craft was easy to grab. Like, water marbling for cloth. Like, that's complicated. Like, if you go to Tadam and see all the list of ingredients, it's quite a lot. And for me, I like to cross stitch. So I can show you a cross stitch thing and go, hey, go to this website. You can find a kit right here. This kit is really cute. Buy this kit, do this thing. Costs $30, $50 if you get a big one. You can spend 10 to 15, 20 if it's sort of a small, mid-sized one, and you can be working on that almost instantly. Meghan's stuff is obscenely complicated and only, I think, really doesn't really appeal to anybody. Meghan talking about, I know my audience. Who is your audience, Meghan? Your audience must be exceptionally small because that is what we see as a result. And let's think about Meghan's show here because I think Meghan knew, because I'm sure Netflix told her, hey, we're not promoting this for you. Not a ton of reason for us to promote. So I think Meghan has known for a while, I would imagine, or she should have known that Netflix was like, you know what? We're not really going to promote this. It's going to be fine. Whatever happens, happens. And Meghan, to her profound discredit, was like, sure. Because look at her Instagram here. She only got a couple of things recently for her show. So this is her trailer, which dropped August 12th. It's now August 29th. Then the next thing she dropped was August 19th, a week later, a recipe where she really showed off none of her own products, nothing from the show. And yeah, this was relatively pointless. Then, oh, what a man my husband is. Isn't he sexy? Not sure how this is supposed to help us watch your TV show, Meghan. This was done like the week before, 6 days ago, a couple days before launch. And then we get this little bit of a teaser where she says to this, well, he says flower sprinkles. That is so gay. That is the gayest thing I've ever heard. And I don't want to say gay because I know he can say that, but I can't. But is it stupid? Yes. If he's saying that in the way to say it's stupid, I 100% agree with that. And then she gets a little queasy watching The Lobster. And then she has, let's do the funniest moments. Nobody cares. This was the day before. These two were done after. Guys, from a marketing perspective, and again, I will do a deeper dive on this for the As Ever products today because, again, we're going to be front loading a bunch of videos. But to promote something, you have to actually work at it. You just can't say, my name will sell it. I know my audience. I don't have to do anything. Well, this proves you do. Meghan, if she was told, hey, there will be no production or marketing budget for this, Meghan should have been on Instagram for 2 weeks leading up to the show, showing behind the scenes things, showing funny things, explaining to people why she loved having different people on the show, maybe showing them in a little Instagram short or reel or whatever. This is profoundly unprofessional. It's immature. It's a huge waste. Meghan has infinite resources. I always say this, guys, because I don't do everything I should. I think about the stuff I should do and I forget it. But that's because it's only me. I only have me to work with. And so I get distracted by a bunch of things. I feel like I'm running around with like a chicken with my head cut off from time to time. Meghan has so many resources to throw at this. She has her own PR team. Why haven't you been promoting your show? You didn't even do that on Bloomberg. You didn't even do that with your business on Bloomberg. That interview was a disaster, an absolute train wreck of a mess. Why can't you do the things you're supposed to do? Then you might see success. What we are seeing, guys, right now is the result of a very lazy marketing and promotional strategy, which basically means there is none. There is no marketing PR strategy here. And Meghan is solely relying on her title to get her anything. And that bandwidth is starting to get smaller. Yes, she has an audience. Yes, she has people who will buy her stuff. But we have seen proof now pretty positive that audience, technically beyond the curiosity factor, is very, very small. And she has failed on every single level to try to capture a larger mainstream audience. And that is her mistake. That is her massive, catastrophic error. And we've seen in 4 months, Meghan has been very, very heavy this year in the news. And it's starting to both wear people out. She's starting to get wildly overexposed. I made a video and a article about that a couple months ago, and now we're seeing the fruition of it. When you become overexposed and when you're starting to add nothing to the world that people live in, that's just vacuous nonsense, at some point, everything will start to fail, and we are there. The crash and burn of this show is a surprise to no one, least of all Netflix. But I think the person probably surprised the most is Meghan Markle because she lives in a delusional bubble. That is what she confirmed on Bloomberg. She lives in a delusional bubble. She does not get any of the feedback. And so she didn't know that she would have a catastrophic flop on her hands. And she should know, because part of being a good businesswoman, Meghan Markle, is understanding your market, understanding your demographics, and understanding your failings. And Meghan just can't accept that she has failings, and in this case, has absolutely failed. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Bye.